Bonjour tout le monde, merci à votre présence. Donc la présentation, ça va être en anglais, mais on peut discuter en français. Hello everyone, my name is Gewu. I'm the third year PhD student in Sorbonne-Université with Maria. And I'm glad to be here to talk about our work about the communication modeling in wireless body area network. So this is the plan. The first thing we want to talk is the WBAN system we are working. And then I will show the first performance analysis of this WBAN system we used. And we will continually study the modeling in this kind of the WBAN system by using this probabilistic connection model. And then we propose solutions to increase the reliabilities for the WBAN system by using this connection model. And then we want to further modeling all the behaviors in WBAN system, including the transmission, including the communication, and think about all the layers of the network. And the last work is a little independent to others, because in these cases we consume the WBAN is to be a very Turkic model. And in this model, we want to look at how the labeling scheme will help in this kind of the Turkic model. So let's begin with the first part, the WBAN system. So WBAN system is a kind of the wireless body area network. It's a kind of the wireless sensor network, but instead of collecting the data from the environment, the WBAN device is on the human body and will collect the physiological data from the human body. And they have the devices on the human body has a very low energy, has the lower computation capacity, and also they on the human body and move with the human mobility. So this is an overview of the WBAN system. In this part, it's intra-WBAN communication. There's the sensors on the human body, and there's a sync node, a gateway node, will collecting all the data from other sensors. And then they will send this data, to the outside of the network, outside of the WBAN, to let the doctors or the hospitals can have access to this data. We call this part is the intra-WBAN communication. So in this work, in this talk, we will focus on the first part, the intra-WBAN communication. So talking about the intra-WBAN communication, there's two basic working mode in this WBAN system. The first is broadcast. The idea is we have a sync node here. It will broadcast the message. They want to send a message to everyone in the network. And the second one is convergecast. It's in another set. That is, every single sensor node will collect the data and send the data to the sync. It's a difference between these two kinds of the communication. And then talking about the topology in the intra-WBAN communication. So instead of using a one-hop topology with a star topology, that means we have to keep the connections, direct connections between every node directly to the sync. We hope we will use a multi-hop topology. Why? Because by the moving of the human body, because we are moving, and because of the reflex and the blocking of the human body, it's very hard to make sure to guarantee every node has a direct connection from themselves to the sync. So in this case, we give every node a probability, a chance to be a relay node, so that they can receive the message from the neighbors and resend them to make the packet, the message can be sent one day to the sync. And by doing this, we can save some energy to reduce the transmission power, and also we can reduce the radiations to the human body. And also we can increase the reliability because every time if the node sends a message, for example, in here, this one has no direct connections to the sink. So they can send to this one, and this one will send one by one to the sink. So for the multi-hop WBAN communication, we use a proposal from the literature. In this work, it proposed 7 different sensor nodes on the human body. And the number one, the sensor in the chest is the sink. And also, it proposed 7 different human mobility posture. It's like the posture 1, walking, running, walking weakly, sitting down, lying down, sleeping, and wearing a jacket. For each one, each posture is a continual actions of the human body. For example, in the walking, there's a human model based on the simulation. It's walking, and this is represented by a consequence of the time frame. So here we show only 4. The first frame, the 10th, the 20th, and the 30th. And the red point here in the figure on the human body is represent the sensor, the position of the sensors. So after that, they do the simulations by using this kind of the model. And they gives a data set for all the different posture, for all the nodes, a channel attenuation database. So here we shows the table for the first posture walking, and we can find all the average value and the standard deviations between every 2 nodes on the human body. For example, here we have, for example, here for the attenuation, the average value of the attenuation between upper arm and the head is 45.4. And also for between these 2 nodes, between head and upper arm, the standard deviation is 5.1. And then we want to implement all of this into our simulation environment. So we do a channel attenuation model. In this model, one node I will send message to G. So in this case, we assume that there is a random attenuation value, which is AIGP, means we send message, means the random attenuation between I and J in posture P. So we let this random attenuation follows the normal distribution with the average value and the standard deviations given by the dataset. And then we said that if the transmission power from the I is PWT, and the receiving power for this message by going through this channel is PWR. So the formula for the PWR is the transmission power minus the channel attenuations. And if the receiving power is bigger than the sensitivity of the receiver, which is the sensitivity is a parameter of the receiver. So the smaller the sensitivity is, the weaker signal the receiver can detect. So I said we say that if this is hold, that means the link is exists. So the message can be transferred from the I to J. So here we show the first performance analysis. So there's 2 performance parameters we are interested in. The first one is the converged gust reliability. The converged gust reliability means how many packets I can receive by all the sensors in the network. So if the percentage of the packet can be received at the sink is very low, for example, the 20%, then that makes no sense that we made any medical decisions based on this value, based on this kind of the WBAN system. And the second parameter is the total order transmission. So in these cases, we want that for each node, all the messages sent by this node should have the same order to be received at the sink. For example, here the B sent message 1, 2, and 3, and we want that at the sink, the message 1, 2, 3 can be received in the same order. And we are not very. It's not very important that the total order between these two different nodes, because in the WBAN system, different nodes always usually collecting different data. So it's easy to tell the difference between the data, between the different type of data. And this parameter is very important because for any medical data, we need to ensure the correct orders for the doctors to know the situation of the patient. And here is the simulation environment of our work. So in the application, we use the simulator is Omnet++, and in the simulation layer, and in the application layer, we sent the continued packet flow to test the performance of the network. And in the channel, we use the channel and mobility model we present just before. And for the mic layer and the physical layer, we use the data set of the real transceiver named CC2420, working in the 24 gigahertz. We use all the parameters, the same parameters, given by the programming sim to implement into our mic layer and physical layer. And to the networking level, why we need the networking level? Because we are in the multi-hop. So we need some kind of the routing protocols. So in the networking level, we implement 4 different classes of the converged gas strategy or converged gas routing protocol. So this is the 4 different kinds of the converged gas strategy: the multipath strategy, attenuation-based strategy, gossip-based strategy, and the dynamic path strategy. So for the first one, for example, it's like we give this node defined the path to let them send message according to this path and until to the sink. And for the second one, attenuation based, is the node will communicate, will negotiate with their neighbors to find out which is the best next hop to send my message. And in the gossip-based strategy, the node will just broadcast the message and and when I receive the message, I will continue to broadcast the message until the message has been received by the sink. And for the last one is dynamic path strategy. That is, during the transmission, every node will try to send the beacon message, send some heartbeat message to keep a dynamic path according to the packet receiving heart something to keep a dynamic path, so that the packet will follow this path to the sink. But this path will change during the transmission. So here's the first result we can see. This is the comparisons of the reception result in both 1 working, and at the transmission power is relatively low at minus 60 dBm for all the different strategies, with the increase of the packet height up to 500 packet per second. So in these figures, we can see the reception height decreased very fast. And after the 100 packet per second, the reception height still stay very low. And before 100 packet per second, the reception height decreased very fast. So this part means we send too much packet into the network, and the network is over his capacity. And for this part, the fast decrease represent the different strategies is not well adapted to this kind of the unstable and the dynamic WBAN system. And the second one is the fifth order rates heart in posture 1 working and with the transmission power equal to -60 dBm. So here we can see for all the strategies, the fifth order rates is not always equal to 100%. That means there's always the wrong order receptions during the transmission. And this heart will regress up after after 100 pocket per second. That is because after this this very high speed of sending message, the reception heart will decrease. So the interval of the time interval between receiving two messages will increase. So the probability of the LAMVAX, the wrong order reception will decrease. So a little okay. So why we will have the wrong order reception? That is, during the transmissions, we always, for all the strategy we present, there's always the multi-pass during the transmission. That means, for example, here, if A has two paths to go to the sink, the first one here and second one there. So if A sends the first message go by A, B, and the sink, and the second one go directly to the sink, there's a probability that the second message can be received at the sink before the first one. So this is why we have the wrong order reception. So this is a little summarize of the performance analysis. The first is the packet traffic should not be too much. And second one is the order strategy shows the wrong order packet reception. And the third one is the strategy are not well adapted to our unstable and dynamic WBAN environment. So we want to improve the performance so that we look into the communication, the connection in our WBAN system. So here we propose a probabilistic connection model. As we know, we have the channel attenuations here. Every time the channel attenuation will add it to the transmission power to affect this transmission power. So we say if the receiving power, the PWR IJ is bigger than is higher than the sensitivity of the receiver, then the connection here exists. So here we can see, because from this formula, the random attenuations AIJ will show smaller than attenuation maximal attenuation bound. And
excuse me for the interruption. The generation of packets by nodes is asynchronous or it is synchronized?
It's desynchronized.
It is synchronized.
You mean the attenuations during the transmission?
The nodes generate packets just independently.
It's independent. It's desynchronized. There's no synchronization in this kind of system. Okay. So if so we see the probability that this connection exists is that the probability the random attenuations AIJ is smaller than this value, and it can be represented by the CDF function, the CDF function of this random attenuation AIJ, because we modeling the AIJ by the normal distribution, so we know this function. So what we have now, we have all the connection existing probabilities between every two nodes in all the different human posture. So for example, here we show only one posture is the posture 1 working, and here we only show the connections who has the probability who has the connection existing probability higher than 10%.
So a quick question has this probability model verified by experimental results?
How to say? this model is proposed by the literature is, then I will show this. Okay, here. So why they want to use a simulated human model, human mobility model to do this this job? Because if we use the real human body, then it's depending on the height and the different size of the human, the value will change. So this is why they decided to make a model, a generic model, and they do the simulation a lot of times to get the results. And this results, they evaluate this result with the real human body, the real environment, with the real human, by using the real human. So this model has been verified. But from the literature, from the opening of the order, this kind of the model is much more generic to if you use real human. So this is one of the advantages of using this kind of the model.
Can I ask one question? So I see that these simulations are done in 2.4 gigahertz.
Yes.
So it's like open band, and like you will be having interference from all other wireless
yes.
around
Yes.
that.
Yes. Sure.
So this attenuation also takes into account the
No.
interference coming from.
No, because in this. Sorry, you can finish your question.
Yeah,
sorry.
this the reception probability, like reception of successful packet reception, and those probabilities.
Sure.
Do those probabilities or packet error take into account the interference from other wireless?
All the parameters you said will take into account in the simulator, but it's not taken into account with the first, with our first modeling, the probabilistic connection modeling. Because in this model, we only focus on the connections between two nodes. We don't care about if the packet can be received successfully.
But by the way, this kind of probabilistic connection model has been proposed in multiple radio packet networks since the old time, right? It's the same methodology, right?
Yeah. Okay. So we have all the connection existing probabilities for every two nodes in 7 different human posture. And aiming at the 2 questions, the first is the reliability, and the second one is the fifth order properties. We want to build directly from this probabilistic connection model a tree, a best path tree. So why we want to build a tree? Because if this is a tree, then there's no multi-hop during the transmission. So the fifth order property will be. So if there is a tree, there is a. Wait. Okay, so if this one is a tree, then there will no multi-path presence in the transmission. So the fifth order property will be guaranteed automatically. And how to build this best path tree? So we choose for every node sync sensors the shortest path according to the link existing probabilities from themselves to the sync. So that means for every nodes, this path will guarantee the highest probability to send the message from themselves to the sync. But it's not enough, because we can see in this, from this probability, we can see there is some link is very weak. So it's not possible to let the sensor send message and then let the like this. So we propose another retransmission mechanism. That means the name is no argument retransmission. The idea is that when one node will send a message, it will continue send the same message a lot of times without waiting the argument. Because in this environment, the link is not stable. So even we wait for the argument could be a discard. So in this case, we don't wait for the argument, and we trying to send the message several times. This time will according to the probability of the existing link probability. And the number is the lambda of the probability. For example, if we have the link probability is 0.5, so the A will send directly 2 times to B. So here is our proposition is that we build a best path tree, and then we give every link a number. This number is the estimate the retransmission number. So we have 7 different this tree for different human posture with different number of the retransmission. Okay, so this is a result that we simulated with the packet height up to 50 packets per second. In the transmission power is minus 60 dBm. So we can see in the both 3 and 6, our proposition has the best performance and best reception height until to 30 and 40 packets per second respectively. And here is a little summary of our results. So this part is an application of the probabilistic connection model. As you said, that there's a lot of other parameters we don't consider in this kind of the modeling. So the next step is to model the whole behaviors of a WBAN communication. So we take a very easy case, a very easy scenario, where is the broadcast scenario. That means the sink will try to send message to every other sensor nodes. And in these cases, we let the sink send only 1 packet during the broadcast. And for any other sensors, if they receive the message at the first time, it will rebroadcast the message and finish. For other configurations in the MAC level and the physical layer and the channel layer, we keep the same configuration. We only modify the application layer, so we send only 1 message, and the networking layer, that is the broadcast protocol. So before we modeling our system, we have to talk about the 1 parameter in the MAC layer. It's unslotted CSM RCL. We use this in our MAC layer to avoid the interference. So the idea of the CSM ACA is that when one node wants to send a message, it will take a random timer. It will wait a random time. The random timer is depending on the random number it chosen in an interval. So we call this is the back-off time. And after this time, it have to listening to the channel for a while. If they think okay, the channel is empty, then that means no one sending a message during this time. So this node can change their state from the transmission to receiving. From the receiving to the transmission, and then they send the message. This part is the transmission time, and then they change back their state from transmission to receiving. And here, if during the listening the channel is not empty, that means there's another one. It's trying to send a message. It's sending message. Then, after the listening, this node will choose another backoff. But this time, the interval of the backoff will double. So after that, after the finish of this timer, the node will listen 1 more time to the channel, and if the channel is empty, it can send a message. If not, it retake the timer. And we have a maximal timer. Maximal time of the timer they can take is the 5 times, but we can modify this. Okay. So here is the case where we have interference or not. So in the first case, we don't have the interference because there's no overlapping between this blue part. This blue part is the real transmission time. And in the second part, we have the interference because we have the overlapping of the transmission. So the introduce of the unslotted CSMRCR gives us the idea that we cannot make sure what is the time exact for a node to sending a message. Because you see, we can have one node can begin to send a message from here until to here, or it can begin from here to here. So the time is not. We cannot get the exact number of for this time. So what we could do is we modeling this time. We call this time t as the necessary time to send a message, to send a packet. Follows exponential distribution, and the average value is big T here. So after modeling the time, then we can begin to talk about the state, all the possible states for the nodes. So for the nodes in the WBAN system, they can have 3 different states. The first state is listening L. That means the nodes is waiting to receive the message. They are waiting for the first message. And the second one is T. That means the nodes is in the sending message processes, which means it has to wait for this T to be finished. And the third one is the R, the state of R. That means the node finished the transmission, and they change the state from T to R. That means I receive the message, I rebroadcast the message, so I finish my job. So here's the cycle for the normal, for the no-sync nodes. That means at the beginning, they are in the state L. That means I'm waiting for the message. And then if they receive message, they change their state from L to T. That means I receive the message, then I need to rebroadcast the message one time. After sending the message, they change their state to R. But for the sync, at the beginning, the sync is directly in the state T because it's the sync to send the message, send the first message. And then the sync change to R, and it will stop here. So after defining all the state a node could be, then we can begin to model the WBAN system by a continuous-time Markov chain. So the system state is like this. It's a sequence of the nodes of different state. So with the L, T, and L or R. And we have the lambdas for them. So for the first node, for the node 0, the beginning state is L. And for others also, but except for the first one, because the first one is the sync. So at the beginning, he is in the state T, so he will send the message at the first time. So how it changes the state? So after the sync sending the message, it changes their state from T to R. And at the same time, here we assume that the propagation time is, we ignore this propagation time because the distance on the human body is very small. So here we can see the number 4 received the message because they changed their state from L to T, and the 6 also changed their state from L to T. But for the others, they don't receive the message, so they stay in the state L. And from here, because in this state we have 2T here, and in a real, in the real world, in the continuous-time Markov chain, there's no chance that this 2T can finish the transmission at exactly the same time. So there must be one finish at first. So from here, we have 2 states. We have to separate two states. So in this state, is the number 4 finish at first. So the number 6 stay in the state T. And in this state is the number 6 finish at first. So here we have from here we have all the system state possible, and all the transactions. So we know how the system state change from one to another. The rest of work is to how to compute the probability of this transition probabilities. So we begin from a very easy case. That means we consider that there's no interference in this system. So if there's no interference, as we know, the connection existing probability according to the random attenuation AIJ. That means if this AIJ is smaller than this value, the connection exists. But after receiving this message at the receiver, because the channel is not ideal, so there's always some problems. There's always the probability to receive one piece of the message wrongly. So this is defined by the BLR, the bit error height, and according to our modulation type is the QPSK. The formula is like this. So in this formula, we have the first parameter is the receiving power from I to j. And we know this power, we know this value because this is only depending on the random attenuations between I and j. And the second one is, and here is the environment noise. So we can think this noise is constant. It will not change during the transmission. And for the I here, represent the interference. So as we consider that there's no interference, so this part is equal to 0 in these cases, because there's no interference. So the final probabilities for a message already received at the receiver, the probability of the decoder can decoding this message correctly is 1 minus the bit error height and the powers of the number of the bits. And here we assume that the reception of every piece is independent. So finally, we got the probability that from the I, if I want to send a message to j, the probability that the j can receive the message finally successfully is Pij. It's only according to the random attenuations Aij. So if the attenuation is smaller than this part, okay, so the probability is only depending on this probability, on the successful decoding probability. And if not, the probability equal to 0, because the link is not exist. So here we have, we can put the probability into the transitions. So here is an example of 3 nodes with the T, T, and L. For the first one is T, second one is T, and the third one is L. So they have this full state possible. And for example, what is the probability from here to go here? It's the probability that we let the first node who finished the transmission at first. So this one change to R, and another T stay in the T, and this probability is 50%. So we have 0.5 here, and then we look into the L state. So this state could change to T, or it will stay in the L. So as in this state, now the 2 stay in the state L, then the probability is 1 minus the probability it can receive the message successfully. So also with the others, we can have these probabilities. And if we have multi L in the state, then we consider that the reception of every L of every receiver is independent. So here is the second one finished at first. So we have 0.5, and times the number 2 is fail, so it's one minus this one, and the last one is succeed, so it's times directly the P13. And here is an overview of the continuous-time Markov chain without adding the probabilities. So it's an example for we have only 4 nodes. At the beginning is only the second one is in the state T. And for all the states who has no T in it, it will not change to another state. Because there's no T, so it's only T will change. And we said the broadcast is succeed if all the state change to R. All the state of the node change their state to R. That means that all the people receive the message. So here we show the results, the comparison results between our model and the simulation. For 7 different postures, the result is real close, I think. Okay, and to continue improve this model, we have to consider the problem of the interference. So as we modeling the interference, as we modeling the needing time for sending a message, is following exponential distribution. So here we said this part TT is the time to transmitting a message, to sending a message. That is the transmission time. So this time is fixed because the size of the packet is fixed. So we said that if in this case we have 2T here and we have 2L here, so the probability, so we have the first one can finish the transmission, and the second one will finish the transmission after the first one. So here we said there's no collisions if after the first one finishes their transmission, the rest time of the second one, this part is if this rest time is bigger than the TT, then we don't have the interference. And but if this value is smaller than TT, then we have the interference because this part will change to here. So we have the interference. We have the overlapping of the message. And as the exponential distribution has no memory, so the time rest is equal to the time t. So the probability here, we don't have the interference is the t. The probability that the t is bigger than the tt. So finally, it's this one. And also the probability with the interference is this one. It's 1 minus the p. And then, for the case where we have a lot of the t in the same state, we have to consider each t separately. So we consider that if the first message has the interference with another's, it's independent. So, for example, in this case, the node 1 has the interference with 2, and has the interference with 4, is independent. So the probability in this case is that the first message, the first node has the interference with the second times. It has the interference with the number 4 times. It has no interference with the node 3. And all the combination number is the 2 powers the number of the t in the state -1 and -1. And also we assume that if we say there's a collisions between 2 transmissions, the percentage of the overlapping is 50%. So we can have the 100%, we can have 1%, but we take the average value, so 50%. So here in this step, when we want to compute the transaction probabilities, we have to consider, in the case where we consider the interference, we have to consider the I here. So the I is all the receiving power at the receiver. except the one, except the target one, except the I here. And in this formula, all the receiving power here is the random is according to the random channel attenuations between node K and J. So there's a lot of random number, and we don't want to. We want to estimate this value by the average value of this receiving power, because this receiving power, this average receiving power, is the transmission power minus the attenuation. If we use the we use the average attenuation, so we can get the average of the receiving power, and the average of the channel attenuation is given by the data set from the literature. So finally, we get the probability that for a message has already received at the receiver, the decoder can decoding the message correctly is like this. We have two parts. The first part is because we said each time if we say there's interference, the overlapping part is 50%. So we have the first part, the BER here is no interference, and the second part is with interference.
By the way, all this assumption will impact your results, right? All these assumptions, such as 50% overlap.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so you have some simulation of when the result is justified.
Yeah. So here, finally, we define the probability that one node sending message from I to J, this probability that the message can be received at J successfully is Pi with interference, Ij, and it's only according to depend on the random channel attenuations. Okay, so here here from this state to this state, the transition probability is only change from the P02 here to the Pi02. And here's the results. So we can see we have the orange one, orange cobble is here is closer to the simulation result than the than the case where we don't consider the interference. Okay. So here is the last work is a little bit independent to another work. In this work, we consider that the WBAN is a Turkic model with a perfect synchronization. There's no attenuations. There's no loss during the transmission, and we don't have the time to wait for transmission. So all the things is Turkic. And in this time, we want to see what can help if we use the labeling scheme. So what is the labeling scheme? Labeling scheme is that we give the nodes some additional information to let the algorithm execute very more efficient. So for example, we give an example here. If we want to select a leader from these two nodes has exactly the same things, exactly the same value, same value, and they don't have the sums of the directions. So it's actually it's impossible to choose a leader, to let both of them to agree with the same leader. But if we give them a label, so for example, give this label this one a label equal to 0, and give this one a label equal to 1, so they can exchange their label. And then following the ruler has, for example, who has the smaller label value, then that one will be the leader. So they can agree with the same leader, with this one who has the label equal to 0. And here is the Turkic model of a network. So here we have the connections between nodes, and every node is well synchronized. So they have exactly the same timer. And we said that if this node sends a message, all the nodes who has a connection with him will receive the message immediately. And also we said that if there's two nodes will send a message at the same time, because this is a synchronized system, we can have the transmission at the same time. So if these two send a message at the same time, then there will have collisions in this node. And we say that if there's a collisions, that means that if in the same time one node receive more than one message, then we will consider all of this message will discard. So in this case, is how can we finish the broadcasting from the sink here, and with the help of the labeling scheme. So here we give a solutions that we separate the time into different time slots. And for each time slot, we separate the time slot into the first round and the second round with the same same time. And then we mask some of the nodes in white. So this node will send their message, could send their message in the first round. And for the rest of them, they could send the message at the second round. So the algorithm is very easy that every time if I receive a message in a time slot, for example, time slot I, then I will looking into my label and to decide at which round I will send. But they will not send at the same time slot than they receive the message. So they will wait to the next time slot. An example is like here. So as we will send a message, begin to send a message, all the nodes in this level will receive the message. But they will not, and then they continue to the next time slot. So this one in the middle will send a message at round 1. And for others, we will send a message at round 2. So this one will send a message at round 1. These two will receive the message. But as they receive the message, they have to wait to the next time slot. And for the next round is round 2, so these two send a message. And this node receive two message, but it's not collisions because they receive the message in different round. It's okay. And also continue and continue. So for this one, they have collisions because these two will send message at the same time at the round 2 and create collisions. But it doesn't matter because this node has already received the message at the round 1 by this one. So, so this kind of network is not a whatever network. We define this kind of network is a level separating network. So this kind of network is it's not a tree, but a tree is this kind of network. And we define is this definition is that if for each level of the network, we can separate the nodes into two parts, two sets, the set A and set B. And for all the nodes in the next level, they may have only one parent, or in the state, or in the set of A, or in the set of the B. And if the network is a level separate network, then the broadcast will finish in 2T rounds. The 2T is the maximum level of this network. And we think this network is interesting because for all the posture of our WBAN system, if we present just the link very strong, then all the posture are the level separate network. So this is why we think this kind of network can exist in the real life. But if only we can find another solutions to verify if a network is the level separate network, or we need to find a very efficient way to separate network, and to separate the nodes in every level to two parts. And or for the future work is that we can trying to modify the connections from whatever network to make this network to become a level separated network. Okay, thank you very much.
So I didn't understand why is it important to receive the messages in the
same order.
Because I guess every message has an ID, an increasing ID given by the producer. So if for the receiver it suffices to be sure that it receives ID number 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. If I receive an ID that doesn't follow the sequence, I just ignore it. So isn't it simpler than trying to construct a tree, given that the network always changes?
Okay, the first question is, and the first thing is that in our system, in our WBAN system, the connection is not stable. That means we have the loss of the transmission. So the using of the ID could not be very efficient. So for example, if I receive the ID 1, 2, 3, but I don't receive the 5, I need to wait or I continue receiving others. I don't know the 5 is lost or not. So this is the one point. Another point is we do the simulation. We try to find if we put the ordering, if we do something at the sink to reorder the wrong order reception packet, that will take a lot of time because I have to wait.
Yeah.
I have to wait. Yes, yeah. That's true. So I have to wait, and I'm not sure if the packet will come or not, because it's not a very reliable network. This.
So I guess in all your work, the overall problem is to maximize the throughput, the number of packets which go from to the sink, for example, and minimize the power consumption, or dissipated power. That means they reduce the number of retransmissions to a minimum. Is that the case, or you have so far not taken that into account?
In the WBAN communication system, there's a lot of things we need to consider. The first one is the reception height, is the how many packets I can receive, as you said, and the another thing is the power consumption. Yeah. So this two is like the trade-off. So if you want to have a very high reception height, you can increase the transmission power. You can increase the transmission power, then you will get a better performance. But it's a trade-off. So you have to find the optimized point to these two parameters.
Sorry, my question is more related to the number of retransmissions, because what you need to do is to minimize the number of hops from every node to the sink, for example, when you are considering that, and for a given rate of messages being generated. So if you increase the power, transmit power, basically it is not going to help, because it is going to give you more distance between nodes, but it is not going to increase the number of, reduce the number of retransmissions which you need to do if you have collisions and everything. Okay, so how do you take that into account? How do you think we should take that into account?
Okay, so in the modeling of this continuous-time Markov chain, we do the simulation that if we keep the same transmission power, and we're trying to do a lot of time of the transmissions, we may have how to say, we have we do the simulation that if we keep the same transmission power, then we increase the number of the transmission. So I do a lot of times of the broadcasting to hope that finally the reception height, the reception height or the cover probabilities will be high. And also we do another simulation is that we modify the transmission power. We change the transmission power to see as which power to see the change how to say the change between the reception height, the cover probability and the transmission power. In several postures, if we increase the transmission power, the result is better. Then we send a lot of times. But in another posture, because we have 7 different human postures, we have different channel model. In several different postures, if we send a lot of times, that will be better. Then we increase the transmission power. So I don't show the result here, but we do consider these questions.
One more question. You showed that you take CSMA CA, unflooding CMA CA, for the broadcast case.
Yes.
How about the other case?
The commercial gas case.
Yes.
So this is So this is in the context that we want to model all the behaviors of the WBAN. So the most easy case is that it's broadcasting. One sends a message and everyone else will receive the message. Another case is like converged gas. That means a lot of them will send a message to the single. This is a little harder than this. So we begin with this one, and we will later turn to the converged gas. The converged gas is another question because there is no synchronizations between different sensors. They can send as they want.
Okay, just one comment. I don't know if you have seen the 6-low PAN protocol for IoT. You know, they use DOD, directed acyclic graph, directed oriented acyclic graph to do the labeling of the nodes. You know. And I don't know if you have seen that.
I know this name. I heard about this name, but I didn't go to the detail of this.
6-low PAN protocol for IoT. It is standardized by IEDF.
Okay. So in that context, they use star topology or multi-hop topology, because I know in the standard of the WBAN, they use a star topology. That means they have a.
No, this is exactly the tree topology.
Okay, so that means the multi-hop.
Yes.
Okay, okay, I'll see that. Okay, thanks.
Just a very quick question. Does the arrival ordering or the sequence of the packet matter in your performance or in your project? For example, one packet can arrive later or earlier than the other in a certain ordering, right? Does it matter? Of course, it depends on application.
Yes, that's true. Normally it's matter because all the data transmitting in the WBAN is the medical data. If it's the medical data, it's matter.
Okay, so in general, it doesn't only take into account the power consumption and the amount of packet arrived or the number of packet arrived, but also take into account the latency or delay constraint of packet, right? If the packet arrive, let's say 1 year later or 10 minutes later, you expire. Depends on application, right? You have to optimize, take into account. Okay, so it depends on whether real-time application or not.
Actually, the overall packet rate, Kelvin, is going to be rather low, you know, and that is the case for most of the medical applications. I mean, you don't send you send only 1 hour per hour. You send some data, you know.
Well, it depends on the type of the application. Because in against surgery, for instance, they need.
Oh no, I don't think you can.
No, we cannot compete.
No, I don't think.
With
What I've heard, the packet rate is so low.
Yeah.
And if you are talking about 50, you know, the 5G latency constraints, you know, for your LC, it is like 1 millisecond, 1 millisecond.
1 millisecond.
Less than 1 millisecond.
Yeah.
No, there is no
for
way.
the moment, no.
There is no way
No
to
way.
do packet ordering without, you know, there is no way, no way. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, in some applications, we have the notion of individual delay, and sometimes we call it a group delay constraint as well, which means the time you can complete the task.
Yeah. Real time, like real time schedule.
Yes.
So we didn't. For the moment.
Okay.
Thank you.